Hello and welcome back to the Snakebite. It's our weekly sports show that airs every single Wednesday at noon. I'm John Kristovich with James Simpson saying thank you so much for tuning in to FSC TV. Today we're looking at the men's and women's basketball teams, which went a collective 5-0 this week. All that and more coming up on this week's edition of the Snakebite.
Yeah, John, our focus this week, it's all on basketball, and both the men's and women's teams made sure we have a good news to bring you this Wednesday. Let's start with the women, who went 3-0 this week after winning a tough contest at home before defeating two Puerto Rican teams on Thanksgiving weekend. Ashley Shell paved the way for Florida Southern as she had 22 points in the win over Lincoln University of Missouri last Tuesday. Shell is now third in the conference, averaging 18.8 points per game. She's also averaging 7.4 rebounds per game, which is third in the conference as well. The Mocs beat Lincoln by a final score of 83-69 as Maria Lorente had a solid day too, scoring 15 points in the win.
Yeah, and James, they followed up that that win with a trip to Puerto Rico to take on a couple of Division II teams down in the lovely Caribbean weather. The first matchup was on Friday, and this time it was Anna Danish who led the way for the Mocs since she tallied 17 points and 8 rebounds, both team highs. It was a new career high as well in both categories for the transfer student, who guided Florida Southern to a handy 75-51 victory over Puerto Rico Ria Piedras.
Yeah, John, and on their second day on the Island of Enchantment, the Mocs won big again, beating Puerto Rico Mayagüez by a final score of 82-46, trouncing the home team on their way to winning their 5th straight game. Marissa Janicki was superb for Florida Southern as she notched a career-high 22 points, while Dominica Zamora was strong defensively. Second-year player out of Ecuador had 10 boards and secured 3 steals in the victory. Zamora was named the Sunshine State Conference Defensive Player of the Week for her efforts this week, accumulating 12 steals, 20 points, 11 assists, and 17 rebounds over the course of the 2 games.
Hey, James, those are just absurd numbers from Zamora, who returned to action after missing a few games. Well, let's take a look at the men's team, which won both of their games this week to move to 6-0 on the season. The Mocs hosted the annual Terrace Hotel Thanksgiving Classic this past weekend, taking on Anderson University on day 1 of the Invitational, beating the visiting Trojans with ease. FSC eclipsed the 100 mark for the second time this season, beating Anderson 112-91 behind 26 points from Jaden Booth. Booth is now averaging over 22 points per game, which is good for first in the conference.
Yeah, and in their second game of the Thanksgiving Classic, the men's team added another vintage game to their already thrilling schedule. Facing off against the University of Wisconsin-Parkside, the Mocs moved to 6-0 on the season, beating the visiting Rangers 74-73 in a barn burner. The win was the 4th of the season, and that was decided by 2 points or less as Connor Raines knocked down the go-ahead three-pointer with 4 seconds remaining. E.J. Damerville was impressive once again as he set up the late deep ball with a timely steal in the final minute. He also added 13 rebounds, picking up his 24th career double-double. He leads the conference in double-doubles, field goals, and rebounds this season.
A 4th win this season by 2 points or less. I tell you what, James, that team has taken a year off my life with every win they get. But keep them coming. I'm here for it. That brings us to our Week in Mocs History segment. Today we are looking at December 3rd, 1965, when the George Jenkins Fieldhouse officially opened. The Mocs men's basketball team beat Rollins College 89-59 in their first game of the season back in 1965 to open up the storied arena. The team went 13-4 at home that season under head coach Tom Green, who was at the helm for 15 seasons. That's good for the longest tenured head coach in Mocs basketball history. Well, now here in 2022, both the men's and women's basketball teams, coached by Mike Donnelly and Megan Zekas, will head to the George Jenkins Fieldhouse tonight for a battle with the Eckerd College Tritons. A lot of history there, James. It should be a good one. With James Simpson, I'm John Kristovich saying thank you so much for tuning in to FSC TV. We will see you next Wednesday at noon.